Good morning, New Eden! Today is October 17th, 2021, and welcome to the Federation Frontline Report, a podcast about EVE Online with a focus on faction warfare. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout. My co-host is Samson.
Good morning, New Eden.
Today we have a really special guest, the leader of Ashterothi Robotics, Ashterothi.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashterothi. It is good to be here, and I do want to point out I'm not actually the CEO of Ashterothi Robotics. I am the leader of Convocation of Empyreans, which is basically what Ashterothi Robotics is part of.
Oh, I do apologize. Man, I screw that up so many times when I'm interviewing people. So do you also...
It's an arrangement.
Okay, so you are part of Ashterothi Robotics in and out sometimes, though. Is that correct, or are you fully independent?
So basically, the Convocation of Empyreans maximizes player engagement with EVE Online, and as part of that, we have a faction warfare group. Well, in EVE Online, you can't have part of your alliance in faction warfare and part of your alliance outside of faction warfare. So Ashterothi Robotics is effectively the faction warfare corporation for the Convocation of Empyreans. So as such, I do go back and forth depending on whether or not I'm dealing with affairs on like the Convocation high-sec side or on the Ashterothi Robotics low-sec side, but I also have alts in both sides.
Okay, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But to bring it all home, Kurik is actually, I left Kurik in charge, or well, Kurik is now the CEO of Ashterothi Robotics, so he manages the day-to-day affairs. He functions as their advocate, as a director in the Convocation of Empyreans, etc.
Okay, yep, so that definitely makes a lot of sense. So tell us, let's kind of start this, like pull it back a little bit here. How did you even just get started playing EVE? When was that about, and what got you interested in this game?
It was in 2010, and I was actually visiting the local card shop, and I was looking at their new, whether or not they had any Vampire the Requiem books that I had, because I was a big World of Darkness fan first. That's one of the, I like to joke around about the fact that I was brought here by World of Darkness. But so one of the guys I knew that worked at the shop, as I was checking out, was like, "Oh yeah, did you know that this game, White Wolf just got bought out by CCP?" I was like, "Yeah, I heard about that." It's like, "Yeah, you should check out EVE Online." And like, it'd been in my periphery. I had actually gone to PAX a couple of years earlier, and I was like, "I'm a hardcore WoW raider. Convince me to join your game." And they're like, "Well, just go around and check out what's going on." And I went around, and I don't know if you've noticed, but like, EVE is a really, really boring game if you have no idea what's happening and you're just looking over somebody's shoulder.
Yes, yeah.
So I was completely not convinced, and I walked away. So like, it took that, and actually my other friend in college, both within about a couple of weeks, recommending me check it out, that made me go ahead and jump in.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm a huge World of Darkness fan as well. I have a podcast for World of Darkness stuff that I do, an actual play that I run every Monday. I got into EVE Online before they got bought out by White Wolf, but I was super excited about White Wolf getting bought by CCP. I thought that there was going to be an awesome MMORPG that was going to come out. It was going to be like a merger of these two crazy worlds that we could... Even White Wolf had a corporation, like an NPC-ish type kind of corporation in EVE Online. That was kind of interesting. I was looking at that for a little while, but yeah, it's interesting how many people play World of Darkness and play EVE Online as well. I find that there's a large percentage of people who either do Vampire the Masquerade, or it kind of almost feels very similar to that.
And though I don't currently, I wouldn't mind getting back into White Wolf. I did a lot in the past.
What I always found interesting was that even though those two companies were completely developed separately, they both hinged on this everything has 5-point system.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have been able to merge in a very, logical way. I had always had concerns about it because, just their aspirations were so big, but, it's like if anybody could do it, they could. The good thing that did come out of that merger, I would say, is that CCP did actually get a lot of the writers and stuff from World of Darkness, and they're still part of the EVE team now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good to hear. I did not know that.
I honestly, to be perfectly honest, I had no idea CCP bought out White Wolf. I didn't know that until just now.
And
I was
they have
today
sold
years
them
old.
now. So
Oh, okay.
Right.
that
Well,
Paradox
so-
owns it.
See,
White
I'm way
Wolf now.
behind on that.
Right. Well, what actually happened was, so they split the book rights and the like license rights, right? So
Onyx Path did a
Obsidian,
bunch of
Onyx,
stuff.
yeah, I think it's Obsidian. I can't remember the actual name, but like what they
Mhm.
ended up doing was they started launching Kickstarters. And so if you
Mm.
are interested in World of Darkness, it has gone in a really interesting direction. Not just like the 3rd edition stuff that goes back to the day, but like they publish Demon, which is like Matrix in the World of Darkness universe.
I've run Demon at Gen Con, and it's an integral part of my universe that I've created for the World of Darkness. And yeah, there's so much stuff that they've created. That's
right. And so my understanding about that situation is that they basically split off the group that was interested in continuing the publishing. It was like, hey, if you can figure out financing, you can do it. And lo and behold, they figured out financing because every single one of their Kickstarters dunked it. And then meanwhile, CCP retained the rights to produce like the World of Darkness video game and all that stuff. And that's what they sold off to Paradox eventually.
yeah, yep, that all makes a lot of sense.
It's very complicated.
Clearly what you brought me here for.
Right. Well, yeah, no, absolutely. I was about to say, let's slip.
Well, we're
going
gonna go into the history of White Wolf now. Let's.
I mean, yeah. Oh,
continue
yeah.
this
So,
conversation.
You guys are all here for Vampire the Masquerade, right? That's where we're doing actual
Frozen,
play. So.
Can you turn the background music down just
Oh,
a tad?
yeah.
Chat says it's a little loud.
Yep, I can definitely do that.
Thank
I was
you,
wondering
sir.
about that. Thank you very much, chat. Always,
Yeah.
always a work in
without a
progress
mod,
for the show.
unfortunately. Yes, thank you very much, Chad. It's hard to do it ourselves because I need to hear you guys. I guess I could actually listen, but then it's going to be confusing for me later.
So I remember like this has been seared in my memory because like when I was an earlier streamer and had less people in my chat, so nobody would speak up to say such things. I think I streamed for like 30 minutes or more, or I went an entire session and then I went back and listened to it like when I was trying to like find the highlights and found out that it was garbage the whole time. Like nobody said anything, but like you couldn't hear anything at all the entire time. And
Yeah,
like
it happens.
it felt like that dream where you're at the school and you're naked and you're like, and you just realize it at the last second. You're like, God, I need to never let this happen again. So anyone who ever says that the levels are bad or anything like that as a chat member, I love you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Please, if I don't have a mod present, it's very
and we've
helpful,
only been
especially.
streaming for like 10 minutes or so far. So good
It's the
time
beginning of the show.
to let us know. Definitely let me know if I haven't turned it down enough. All right, so let's kind of bring it on back here and let's focus in a little bit on what are some of the activities that you started doing in EVE Online when you first really started getting into EVE Online? What would you say your first fun activities were?
Well, so within a month, my buddy, the second guy, the guy from college, dragged me into a Nullsec group with me and my girlfriend at the time. And so like we both got battleships so we could run like sanctums, but we didn't have enough skill points to do it. So like I went more offensive and she went more defensive so that like maybe together we could do it together. It was just miserable. And like then we went on like a camping trip and came back and all of our shit was being burned. And I was just like, this is great. And she like quit the game and I moved back to high sec. And my buddy eventually, like within a couple of months, he decided to go retire from the game, but he went on to go like make stuff in wormholes. So he contracts me this crap, like this giant pile of stuff that I had no idea what it was worth or anything. And so I wandered around between different corps for a little while, just doing mission running and all that stuff, like trying to figure out any high sec corp. And it was hilarious because like I'd join and be like, hi, can you read my API? Because I would like to show you what I have. And if you can figure out what to do with it, then we can do something with it. I swear to God, I had to go through 5 different corporations.
Yeah, because that's not a trap.
Well, like, no, well, I mean, most of them just had no idea what even to that nobody even looked. Like there's
Mhm.
if you just randomly start joining high-sec corporations, you will get basically vacant, leadership or whatever most of the time I found. So I eventually ran into Marcel
True.
Devereaux, and I ran into him because at the time I was an Android programmer, and I wanted to, get my chops up. And he was the maker of the Aura app for Android. And so I messaged him and I was like,
Oh.
"Hey, man, can I
I
help
love
you
that
out with
thing.
your app?" Yeah, wasn't it great? And he was like, "Oh, well, see, I work for Google, so I kind of use some proprietary stuff, so I can't let anybody else work on my stuff, but you can come be part of my corp." And that's how I joined Ateron. And so we did, some high sec stuff, and then started getting into some PvP with some pirates and all that stuff. But there was a lot of contention because, like, the more we worked out with the pirates, the more our standing started to go down. But meanwhile, we also had like one of the largest industry wings in the Gallente area because one of our, we joined an industrial alliance, took all of their leading industrialists, and then left. So we had this like really sophisticated industrial team, and of course we had a senior developer at Google as our CEO. So we had every fucking tool we could possibly dream of.
Ooh, wow.
In fact, there were special.
You were
functions.
winning.
Yeah, there were special functions in Aura that other people didn't even know about because it detected if you were in the Ateron Robotics Corporation and unlocked additional functionality.
Hacks.
For us to be able to communicate with each other and stuff, and
Hacks.
additional forums and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Anyway, so we did that, and then but there was like always this kind of tension between the people that wanted to go do PvP and their struggle to keep their standings up, and the people who were part of that industrial wing. And then Inferno happened.
It's always been really crazy to me now that we've interviewed several people, that all of these like early on Eve stories, they sound like, when you founded your Fortune 500 company, you know what I mean? Like that's how they all sound like they're starting, like, and I mean, maybe, and they are in a lot of cases, you know what I mean? In game and sometimes outside of game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that a lot of that it's because to have a success story necessitates you go through all of that kind of stuff. Like very few stories just end at the end, as it were.
Yeah.
The end is the beginning.
What happened in Inferno?
Inferno was the major faction warfare change.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm a little bit familiar with this. I do remember you guys when you guys first joined Faction Warfare. It was like, oh, there's this crazy industry group in Faction Warfare. Yep. This is so crazy. Like, because I was part of running X Meta at the time, Mech Enterprises fleet, and then we were in the Valor Accords at that time. And yeah, those were some crazy times. So the big change that happened, I don't think I was actually around for the big change to Faction Warfare.
Yeah. So Inferno had two parts to it, right? So Inferno Part 1 was the actual Inferno release, which was when it was the big Faction Warfare overhaul. I honestly can't give you too much details about like the before times, the long ago.
Is this when they went down to like one rat
classified
instead of like
no
400
that
rats?
was part 2.
Okay.
So but part 1, from my understanding, before Inferno, basically plexes spawned at the beginning of the day, and when they were done. So like
was that also when if you got up to tier 5 the store was cheap?
Yes. Inferno was the one that introduced the reward system, and it was broke AF. So we spent the first several months of Inferno running around in no gun incursuses, orbiting plexes. And I know my buddy, he happened to already have like good standings with the Caldari, so he could just go into the plexes and none of them would shoot him. In fact, they would actually shoot at the things that came in there. And so like he would lose like maybe 50 or 100 Atrons in like a month or something like that, and we'd all be like, oh my god, you're losing so many of them. He's doing it all day while he's at work. Then he told us like he made 40 billion ISK that month. It was like, I don't care about the incursus. It's like, oh, okay. Like it was bonkers because yeah, you're right. So the way it was then was that the tier that you were at was affected how much things cost
in the
opposed
loyalty
to how
points.
much you're rewarded. Yeah, exactly. So but
I had
there's another piece to it too.
I had a buddy that did the same exact thing where he came into faction warfare for a short amount of time, and he was like, I just made like 6 billion ISK when we hit tier 5. Like it was, and he was like, I don't even do much at all. He wasn't
I
playing
still want
much
to
at
see
all.
mine. I haven't made any money off of faction warfare, but I also only like killing.
Well, I mean well, you get what you want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, so the other piece to the puzzle was that back then, if the system was vulnerable, you could still get rewards.
Yes.
But defensive plexing never rewarded you with anything.
Right. Yep. Oh,
So-
yes.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. Defense
That
was
would
nothing.
suck, right?
So it was
Right.
the Warzone was just flipping back and forth, you know, like because it was all just offensive plexing. Nobody did defense.
Right. So everybody would plex up all the systems to vulnerable, and then in a single week there would just be a bash fleet that would try to flip the entire Warzone as fast as possible.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the enemy group was trying to plex those systems back up so that way they could counter flip them before the weekend, because at the predetermined time, everybody would dump all their LP into whatever
Yes.
iHubs they need to, spike us up to 50 or
Tier 5.
and then you have about 45 minutes to cash out before the enemy manages to pull you out of it.
The memories are now flowing back of that time.
In
because
fact-
I
in
remember when that happened. Yes. Oh my God.
Here's a fun fact. If you ever go to a loyalty point store and you try to buy something and it lets you buy multiple of them, that's because of this. Because legitimately, we went to CCP and we were like, hey, you're against macros. We've macroed the process of buying things because we literally mechanically should be allowed to buy it, but we cannot perform enough actions to buy enough data cores in 45 minutes without without botting it, basically. And CCP went back and it came back to us and was like, look, this isn't right to do. So botting's not okay, but also that's not good. So for now, okay, but we're gonna fix it. And then when we do, no. And then the next patch, there's that thing.
We'll
And then
pretend we
have to do
didn't
it
hear
anymore.
that. It's fixed now.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that was a great. There was some weird times back then. It just the way that the weirdness of just coordinating that. Like if you weren't online during the tier 5, it only lasted like 10 minutes or something like that, if I remember correctly. Like you could get tier 4 for a while, but like the tier 5 would hit and it would just hit for like this minute amount of time, and you would have to go hit it real quick, buy up all your shit, and then I like the way that it is now, to be honest, comparatively to that. Like that was horrible, but it meant for some weird times, so fun times.
Made us all rich, at least.
It did. We made a lot of money off of faction warfare in that time period.
I lived off of that for a couple of years. Just every once in a while, like check the prices on the market when electronic engineering data cores got high enough. It was just sell off a little bit more. Can't sell them off all at once, or else you'll just destroy the market.
Right. The long-term investment.
I'm jealous because I've never gotten to any of that stuff, been able to do any of that stuff in EVE. I don't make money in EVE. I would love to. Just destroy things.
Yeah, that's all I do now too, which is interesting. So, tell us, what was it like, kind of running Aderon through all of this times? I know that you've done quite a bit of other projects with Aderon, before you got to the Emporium that you've built now, or sorry, did I say that right?
Convocation of Empyreans.
Convocation of Empyreans.
Convocation. Yeah, we just call it the Convocation most of the time.
Convocation. There we go.
So there's kind of 3 different phases of my time in Aderon, with a couple of absences in between. But obviously in the early days it was Marcel, and I was the COO by the time we got to Faction Warfare. And so like I led a bunch of stuff and managed it, but ultimately Marcel was in charge, and Marcel had a lot to say about things, and he also, I mean, he had the kind of personality that if you rightfully called him a dick, he would double down on that, right? Like he knew when he was right. Like I said, he was a senior engineer at Google, right? Like he knew his shit more than pretty much anybody else, and it came across. And so ultimately, strained relationships with the rest of the militia on several occasions. But my job was to try to actually get things done in spite of all of this, until finally, after a couple of years of that, I was like, fuck this, I'm done, and I leave for the first time. Go off, do some like wormhole stuff, and then I take part in World War B, and then come back, and no, that was not World War B yet. I come back, and Marcel had also quit the game shortly after I did, and so I came
That
back.
seems to be a theme with everybody that plays Eve. Winning Eve.
At least
Oh.
for a short
I mean-
amount of time. It's always
I've done this. I've done it multiple times too, and sometimes
Yeah.
long.
Well, people move on after a while. I think that actually people stay with Eve for longer than they do most games, but
I think that what
anyway.
they do is they take breaks from Eve a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Sometimes you
it
say it's
will-
a forever break, and then you bump into a buddy that's like,
Well,
I'm blowing shit up, and they're like, I
Yeah,
don't blow
I
shit
think
up.
there's like a turning point, right? Where you rage quit a few times, and then you get to the point where you look at those rage quits and go, I'm an idiot. That was dumb. Why did I stop playing the game? And that's when you get to the point where you're playing the game for real now, in my opinion, and maybe you take breaks once in a while still, but not rage quitting.
That's fair. Yeah, the CCP has said that on average it takes 2 to 3 times for somebody to become quote unquote hooked.
That's the research too. Probably it probably reflects on my. If you look at my history, you can see it. The NPC corpse where I'm not doing anything.
Nice. So, yeah, I went back to Aderon for a period of time, and by that time, some of the other people that had been left behind had kind of taken over, and started to make things happen. And actually, they solved one of the problems. One of the things that we always had a problem with was funding. Right. One of the fundamental problems with faction warfare is that there's no top level income whatsoever, and yet everyone still expects things like SRP and all these other things. It's like, with what money do you want me to do that with? And so when I came back, they'd actually built up a reactions program there in Fleet, and I was like, oh, we have funding, this is awesome. Like, and I still was trying to support like the people who were there, but like even having me come back kind of put tension on like who the leader was supposed to be or whatever. And so once again, me and the other guy who was supposed to be the leader quit at the same time, more or less, which makes me really feel bad about Aderon altogether. But I'm like, this is not like, actually he quit. And then I was like, look guys, no, I can't, this wasn't, I came here explicitly to not be the one in charge this time. And so I had to bow out too. And that's when I went off to go do World War B and was part of test, saw how other people do things. And at that time I walked away going, you know what? I think I can do this. And so I went back to Aderon and I was like, I want to come back again, but this time I do want to be in charge. And Marcel even was in that meeting, and they all, like, everybody agreed that it'd be okay. And then I got given CEO a couple months later. And so then from there, I was CEO for several years, or for a little while. I can't remember. Oh yeah, that's when, that leads to the formation of FedUp and all that other stuff. All that stuff. And then when FedUp moved to Nullsec, I grumbled about that the whole time. But then when they moved to go join Legacy, that's when I split off to go join Malro, which was our propaganda minister, the guy who actually made the FedUp logo, who won my logo contest to design the FedUp logo. I had assigned him to go into HiSec and form a HiSec corporation. So that way we could recruit from it, train people all right, and see whether or not we could even have a HiSec corporation. Because so often at that time, people blamed CEOs of HiSec corporations for not dealing with Vortex well. And it was like, can anyone deal with Vortex well? Like, or more importantly, when CEOs say the best thing to do is just avoid the fight, and they get criticized for that, like, is there a better solution? Could, with all of our weapons, with all of our PvP experience, could we build a high sec corp that would withstand it? And so they did. He went and was doing that for about a year, and then when, like I said, when FedUp left, I actually went to go join him, and that's about also when I started streaming. And shortly thereafter, at about the same time, they made the War Deck changes. So I started streaming, and invasions happened, and that just made Mauro blow up. It went from like 20 people to 1,000 people. And
Holy
so,
shit.
yeah. So then at the end of the next year, at the new year, I decided that like we needed to have an identity that was beyond all these little like things that we've created already. So, one banner that is our own thing that we could actually make our own icon for, because these corporations, you have to use CCP's tools, which are not great. Please give us more tools for corporation icons to be made. Anyway, so that's why we made the Convocation of Empyreans. So that's how it kind of all fits together.
That's awesome. That is a cool story, dude. Man, that it's interesting because you formed up with FedUp with X Meta, right?
Right. So that's a fun story too.
I'd like to hear about that story because I've never heard the whole story, and I founded X Meta. Like that was a whole thing with just me and my buddies that were getting together, and I was like, I want to do faction warfare. It just came out, and it was like, this is the opportunity for us to build a real PvP corporation, dudes. And like my friends were like, okay, let's do this, and some of them got in on it, and I ended up I've joined Valor Accords. I did a whole bunch of stuff with faction warfare. It was a lot of fun, and then I went to a Goon Swarm party in Madison, and I was like, I hear
that's how it goes.
I love hanging out with goons personally. It's the parties that they throw in Madison, the people that they are in the real world. It's just a blast. I just don't like 0.0 living. Whenever I'm talking to the leadership, it's always like, I'm in the Imperium, but I'm not in any alliance or corporation that's in the Imperium. I'm here to hang out with you guys and party. And so I ended up leaving faction warfare, and I want to say it was Pyro, or can't remember off the top of my head who I left it to, but I left somebody in charge of X Meta, and I was like, they were like, you should just have your alt be the CEO, and you can keep running things while you're doing Goon Swarm stuff. And I'm like, no, you guys are doing good. There's a lot of killing that's going on. Just take over the corporation. It's all yours, 100%. And they went on to like create this alliance with you guys, and I never heard the story. Like I don't know. I just saw FedUp on the map, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, that's so fucking cool. So I would love to hear that story if you'd be willing.
Yeah, and
to
I'm
tell
pretty
it.
sure I've killed people from both alliances and your corporations. I make no apologies, but we're cool now.
As well, you shouldn't. So basically, where do I begin with this? We were coming off of the Gallente Civil War. Our draw, or I guess Wangs now, had moved into Sudrento a few years back, and therefore had to deal with being under the cloud of Snuff, who, while they didn't have the titans that they have now, thanks to the Imperium, they were still one of the major forces to reckon with at the time. So most of the militia dealt with this by living outside of reach of Snuff in places like Nenemelia. We survived by living in Fleet. Is kind of funny because, like, in one direction you have Shadow Cartel, and in the other direction we had Snuff. And so if one side harassed us a little bit too much, the other side would come and get involved. And so between that, we could at least, get by. And so, like, that was our solution. But, like, our draw chose to live directly under Snuff's shadow. And at that point, you either fight them or you join them. And by, I think it was 2015, I can't remember, Ardra had fully blued Snuff, and that triggered all of the other major alliances in or groups within Gallente faction warfare, Cowboy Bebop, Valora Chords, and whatnot, to war deck Ardra to try to force them out of the militia. I had just gotten back from, like, I'd just taken over like less than a month before all of this started to kick off, and they're like, oh, you got to join the war. And so I of course, somebody warned me at the time too. I stayed neutral, which pissed off both sides. But you know, we just kind of hunkered down in Fleet during that time. But ultimately, the Galmil failed to push Ardra out of the militia, because how were you going to do that? And so this kind of tense understanding was starting to emerge. But either way, my point is that the Galmil was way more fractured than it had been in the past. Previously, the Galmil had greater numbers, because who wants to get locked out of Jita? But the Gallente had better organization. We were tighter. We had more organization. We wanted to fight more, you know, whatever. And that's how the balance was.
I remember us being so bloodthirsty back in the day. Like, Gallente was just this, like, we're here to murder you motherfuckers. And the faction warfare and money is kind of nice, but murder is so much fun.
Join the right faction, I guess.
It's also worth noting that prior to Inferno, the Caldari had a civil war that they were just coming off of during
Remember
Inferno.
that.
So in the same way, the Gallente had a civil war, and that left us weak during Ascension, when alphas were first introduced. And I knew that they were going to be huge for faction warfare, and so I tried to preach to the rest of Galmil, you know, come on, we gotta get ready for these alphas. We gotta embrace them. We gotta bring them in. And by that point, Galmil had become elitist and rich, and like, either way, they were dismissive of this idea. Meanwhile, the Galmil sucked up new bros like hell, and so the war zone instantly starts to burn. Now, we hadn't lost the war zone in any significant means since the second change of Inferno, and so this was a huge surprise to the northern half of the war zone. And while they tried to defend, they lost a couple of key conflicts. And so there was a meeting with all of the leadership of Galmil groups to discuss the situation, and it was proposed by, I think, Roy Henry, that we can't fight this, and that we should move our stuff out of the militia or out of the war zone area, let them burn through and get bored, and then take it back. And my response was, they'll take Fleet when they can take it from me. And I left the channel. That night, I got contacted by Contra, who was at that point in charge of X-Meta.
Yep, I know Contra. Yeah, I remember him very well.
And he was like, hey, man, I want to fight too. You know, like, everybody else is pussing out. You don't want to. And meanwhile, we had actually held the South pretty well, because that's what we were focused on. And so he's like, can we come crash on our couch? Meanwhile, I can't keep a military director to save my soul. Every single war campaign that we do, like, I burn out a military director. So the fact that, you know, this really, you know, combat oriented group wanted to come and be part of us, and especially this, you know, FC military leader wanted to come and be an ally with us. We started immediately discussing how we could begin to work together. And within about a month of successful operations and holding the South when nobody else thought we would, that was when it was like, okay, well, this worked out. We should make an alliance. And, you know, after some discussion, the idea of Federation Uprising, or Fed Up, was perfect, because we were fed up with the way that the rest of Galmil had become. And we wanted to represent a new,
I love that name.
More invigorated Galmil.
When I heard that name, I was like, that is beautiful. It's the
Yeah,
most beautiful name for an alliance, and I still think that's it's interesting what happened with them. When you guys were doing 0.0 and being part of the faction warfare, I'm sure you're gonna get to that, but I always found that to be a really interesting aspect. Um, of what that was possibly like during those time periods. But yeah, so I'll let you continue though. But yeah, sorry, I just love that name so much.
yeah. It was one of those things. Like, let's be honest. Naming something is often the hardest fucking thing, and like nobody prepares for. I don't know if you let swearing in here, but
Oh, swear away,
probably
fuck
right.
yeah, swear away
Okay, good.
because yeah.
So
Fuck yeah.
but yeah, like we sat around for like an hour kicking around ideas and like how are we going to make we've fought wars against these guys, we've done all this stuff, and yet like we might rip ourselves apart by not being able to agree on what the fuck to call it, right? And then Fed Up was suggested, and I think it was Silver, but I can't remember who exactly suggested it. But the moment that was kicked out there, Federation Uprising short Fed Up, it was done. That was the correct name. We were just searching for that the whole time and didn't know it. But yeah, so Fed Up was really successful, very successful, and managed to push back. And with the rest of the Gal Mill, we pretty much won all of the Warzone back except for the last couple of systems. And meanwhile, I was having to spend more and more time away from the game because of my real life, my family and all that stuff. So I was kind of defaulting more and more leadership to Contra and them. And so the first idea was that we were going to have a field trip. We went over to the Amar Mimitar war zone. That was supposed to, see how that went for a little time. And then we broke it in half in like half a week or something like that. So we were like, well, that was fun. And then that was when kind of the idea of the major groups of Gallente taking a chunk of Cloud Ring, including Ardraw, Cowboy Bebop, and Fed Up. And so this was summer camp. And like I said, I was already humming and hawing
Another
because
beautiful name. Another beautiful name.
uh I when we made Fed Up, one of my ideas was like the CEO, or like the head of the executive corporation was an NPC, right? He's like canonic, like in our head canon or whatever. He's a member of like the Gallente that is part of our contract. Like Fed Up has a very specific charter to hold the southern half of the war zone. My hope is that with that kind of external directive, it would prevent kind of what happened. But yeah, so when we took Nullsec, like it was still important to do faction warfare stuff as well. But honestly, Cloud Ring is an extension out of Nullsec, right? So
Hmm.
it not only made it so that give us something to do when the Caldari weren't fighting us, but it also gave us a reason to keep that kind of upper right or upper left hand region that is what leads into it. So that was
I
kind of
thought that was
cool.
perfect positioning. Like, I always found it interesting the owning of that war zone, and then or that Cloud Ring area, and then control, and then being able to be right back into faction warfare out of your faction, out of that. It seemed like a really good idea from an external person looking on at that and not really knowing anything about what was going on in the midst of it. But it seemed like a beautiful idea.
I'm pretty convinced at this point it's kind of the thing to do once you've won the war zone. Like that's like begin to encroach into Nullsec, I think is the correct answer. But the thing is that Nullsec changes people, especially leadership, right? Like you go from a faction warfare group with zero high level income to ratting taxes, and there's almost no going back, right? Like they
Right,
see the light.
you get that isk, and you're like, oh man, look, I can shower in this shit now.
Right. But more importantly, now it's like now they can focus on having nice things and fighting and all that kind of stuff. And so bigger fleets, bigger fights, chasing the content, as opposed to wanting to hold the war zone, objective oriented, that kind of stuff. Um, Then the faction Fortizar's changeover was announced, and so we decided to hold our area long enough to be able to get our, I think, 3 faction Fortizars. And it was a pretty, like, there was a pretty epic fight. I have according to some people, extremely cringy, like, motivational video the night before this timer with, it was White Legion, I think it was, or Black, whatever. But you know, we fought Slice, we fought a lot of people in order to do it, and ultimately we kept the space. But then our draw backstabbed everybody, and the whole area started to burn. And so then the idea was like, what to do next? And we had already extended a little bit into I don't even remember, Pure Blind, because it was like nicer space. And so when they started, they burned it all, both sides. And so there was like, what are we going to do? Discussion about which side they were going to join. And ultimately they, like I said, they decided to join Legacy. And that was when I knew it was like, this, I can't walk this road with you anymore.
Right,
And
this was
so,
going down the road of your Nullsec alliance now, not
yeah.
a faction warfare alliance.
And Aderon, I left Aderon in the hands of a guy named Bayonex because, quite honestly, Bayonex is pretty much the reason why I went back to Aderon when I wanted to have a corp instead of making like a whole new one, because he was one of them. He's a jump freighter pilot. He's been kind of the backbone of Aderon for a long time when it comes to making our logistics work. And as everybody who's tried to live in Lowsec world knows, that's an incredibly important piece to all of this. So, you know, he was given CEO, and at a certain point, what it was the, you know, hey, Contra, the Caldari are getting a little bit stronger. We should probably do some stuff over in the warzone too. Nah, it's not a big problem. Okay, well, hey, they're getting to Fleet. We should probably do something about that. No, we got important stuff to do here. Oh, okay. Hey, they took Fleet. We're going to go take care of this. And the leader, the other guy, the Contra and all them were still like, no, you're not, you know, don't do stuff in the war zone. We have to do stuff here. So Aderon said, screw this. We, you know, stayed to their roots and went back, retook Fleet, and has been back in the war zone ever since. And so they've fought off and on.
Date around for that?
Oh boy, I want to say 2 years now, 3 years, 2. Oh shoot, I don't even remember. Somewhere in there. Time is an illusion.
Because I remember, because it's like right around the time that I started getting back into faction warfare is that I saw that Aderon was back in faction warfare. So it probably was before you guys probably got back in before I got back in. But yeah, I just remember it was kind of around about that time where I'm like, man, I want to do faction warfare again. I am just sick of this. And I came back for a very short amount of time, and there was some action that was kind of going on, and then I got into pirating a whole bunch with Samson, and I was like, okay,
my bad.
I'm gonna not do faction warfare for a little while and just pirate the living fuck out of the world. And
I was gonna say all this stuff happened before I even existed.
Well, you existed. You were just.
Well, I know, but it's crazy. Like, Eve has so much player created content, meta and otherwise, in game, out game, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's insane. Like, this is a history. It's a beautiful thing that you know, it's that the players have created this. This exists. It's real. It's tangible. It's canon now for Eve, right?
It's not canonical though, because it unlike a lot of other, like in WoW, you know, the fact that some raid guild managed to be the first to fell a group or whatever, like,
Yeah,
that's really important, and it like makes everybody's news, and it means something, and it's culturally significant. But in 3 years, you don't point at something and say, this is this way because these people did this thing.
yeah,
Right?
no, not in
In
WoW.
Eve, I tell these stories not because I like to sit around and tell stories and people do it, but people go, well, what about this? And it's like, well, in order to explain that, I have to now go back to 2013. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is all matters. It all matters. It all explains why things are the way that they are.
I
And
have to
think that
say,
that's
I
really
love your storytelling on a historian kind of point of view. You seem to have a memory that,
Yeah.
like, I'm a
We
bullshit storyteller. I'm the, like, sitting
we
down with, like, a Vampire the Masquerade game or whatever, and I just get to make shit up all day long. But as soon as you're like, so when did you do this? Or when, or, you know, I literally, the only thing I remember about faction warfare way back in the day was running around a button at 1,000,000,000 miles an hour with that fucking Atron, avoiding the 40,000 missiles that were chasing me. Like, I remember instances like that shit, but I was like reading through some old forum posts. I don't know if you were involved in the like when Valor Accords and stuff had like the militia forums and like Funk, what was that? It was
Funky Bacon.
yeah, Funky Bacon and like a bunch of other like groups were inside of there talking, and there's just some that I have. Let me see. I'm gonna pull up an old. So this would be. I'm pulling it up right now here real quick. So this would be stuff that happened around 2008, like June of 2008. I have like June to 2008 to like July of all these like crazy forum posts about like taking the fight to Nurvakaiken. Federation pilots raid into Nurvakaiken, and they like talk, you know, like they give like a battle report of like what was going on there. That it in another display of disdain for the Caldari Navy, the state protectorate militia, Frederick something name I can't say, and his dead patriot shop comrades led a raid into Nurvakaiken system on the evening of the 6th, and like, so it was just all this crazy forum post stuff about what was going on. I don't know if you remember those days in the old forums, but I always, that's the only stuff that I can remember because I have like documentation of it. There's not even like YouTube stuff out of around that time because it was still new to be a streamer or anything like that during 2008.
Well, even a YouTube person or making
Right.
videos for YouTube.
Yeah, I guess streaming wasn't really existent because of the technology constraints.
It was so called machinima then. So, and God bless Juliana Soder, man. Like, it's funny because I've even had to do some research to looking back to some of the lore events that happened at that time. And so I was like digging into some sleeper stuff, and I pull it up, and there Juliana Soder's name pops up as one of the people talking about stuff and putting in records. And I'm like, you, Jesus, dude, you've been around for a while.
Yep.
And been involved in this stuff for a while. He also, I don't know if you know this, but in this last election for the Gallente Federation, he was allowed to be a candidate. He didn't get very many votes, but he was an official candidate for the president of the Federation.
Really? That's
Absolutely.
awesome, because I know Julius pretty well, because that's when I led the X Meta, is when we were they first formed the Valor Accords, and I like was one of the original corporations that joined up with it back in the formation of it. And I remember just being, we were like, we're just the fucking pit bulls of you, you know, just point us somewhere and we'll go murder people. We're not going to take systems for you, but we will murder all day long for you. And that's what we want to do here. The only reason why I left Valor Accords is because I didn't want to get them embroidered in a stupid war that we had over Hain with a bunch of fucking idiots. When they like came in and they were like, this is our land, and we're like, no, it's not. Like, let us show you what happens when you piss off a PvP corporation in Nullsec. You're war decked, we've left our alliance, and we're coming to murder your ass. And it was a very sad day for them. They lost a lot of shit in Hain. But so the only reason why I left Valor Accords is because I just didn't want them to be embroidered in a war. And actually, Julius, when I talked to him about it, like, I left it and I like let him know what was going on and left, and he was like, got back to me. He's like, dude, you didn't need to leave. We would have come murdered people with you. We can war deck people. And I'm like, I just didn't want you to have to deal with bullshit. But yeah, so that's crazy that he was leader of or that he was up for an so this was the NPC vote. Oh, did I lose you?
Sorry, I hit the wrong button to talk. So yeah, he put up a website called Soder for President, and yes, the NPC vote, like the Gallente Federation itself, not like a player organization or anything like that.
Right.
And he went forth as if he was legitimately running for president, put up like in character forums, and like I said, he had a whole website and stuff. And I remember even CCP, somebody from CCP, I'm not going to say who, contacted me and was like, "Who's this Juliana Sutter guy? Is he for real?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's as real as you get." And so on December 12th, 2019, there's a World News article called Galactic Hour News Roundup Yule Festival Trading and Talks Edition, which has the in other news headline of Capsuleer candidate General Juliana Soder eligible for presidential election fee funds under federal military provisions, because in the Federation,
Wow.
they can't fund their own election. They have to get the pass.
You said they released numbers on, is this like
Yeah.
billions of humans that voted for it, or like NPC humans that voted? Like, I'm just wondering on the numbers, because isn't there like trillions of humans in EVE Online?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hold on one second.
Gotta find
So there's the next thing is the election special voting for new president underway, where it says Mentis Black, former Senate. Oh, also, it's worth noting that during the presidential election, there was also an assassination attempt.
I remember that.
Against every presidential candidate except Mentis Black and Juliana Soder.
Can't assassinate a pod pilot, so.
That's true. Anyway, Mentis Black, former Senate head and chief of Federal Intelligence Office, has performed relatively poorly in polling despite his aggressive attempts to project himself as the face of Galente's prosperity with security. Our analysis team suggests much of his appeal has been undercut by the strong security record of Governor Agard and the insurgent campaign of Federal Defense Union General Juliana Soder. While the latter is trailing among the most prominent candidates, voters inclined to back hawkish views have been split across 3 campaigns, with Black's spotted record of FIO head hurting him.
Interesting. So do you know, like, kind of leading off of that, do you know why he's in, is he in faction, in Mimitar faction warfare with the Valor Accords now, right?
Correct. So actually, that goes back to a different world news, which is 2020-12-31, Galactic Hour News Roundup, New Year, New Eden. And in that, there's the headline, former Gallente presidential candidate Juliana Soder withdraws Valor Accords alliance from Caldari Gallente warzone.
Oh, wow. That hit the news.
Yep.
That's pretty fucking cool. So do you know anything about that? Why he left, or what's going? I was so surprised when I looked at like, people fall every day, like, that makes a lot of sense when, like, people are like, okay, we're just not doing this alliance or anything. But when I found out, like, I thought the Valor Accords were gone for good, like, that they didn't exist anymore, because I didn't see them in faction warfare in the Gallente side. And all of a sudden I look at the kill board and I'm like, wait a minute, the Valor Accords, they're over on the side of the Mimitar. What happened here? So I was just wondering if you had any info on that. Not that, you would, but maybe you do.
As Snuff gained power and Black Rise rotted under, neglect of faction warfare mechanics and citadels, eventually Valor Accord decided that it was cooler to go hang out with the Mimitar Mar warzone, which was popping off.
Oh, that makes sense. That's... I mean,
it was it was 100% practical decision.
Yep. Yeah, and sometimes you just have to, like, you've got a brand, but you've also got people you got to appease, and if your people aren't happy, sometimes you got to look for new content, even if your brand is going to be changed, I guess. I don't know if did they change their branding, or are they like over there? The one thing I wish with EVE is that there was more people that were just announcing what the hell they were doing, regardless of how little, quote unquote, they are in the grand scheme of things. Like, I just want to hear more about what's happening out in the universe, and it seems like you got to like grab in people and pull them into a podcast in order to find out what's going on in the smaller areas of EVE Online. But you do a lot of that. You do a lot of really cool stuff for your YouTube channel. So you've got like all this. But one thing I noticed, and I kind of wanted to ask this question, was I don't see a lot of faction warfare stuff, at least not recently. I was just wondering what your if you could tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel and the streaming that you do on Twitch, and just kind of go over some of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So I ironically, things have kind of changed for me during, the 2014, 13, 2013, all that time, during what many people would consider the golden age of faction warfare. That is one of the reasons why I got deeper and deeper into like writing for Eve and stuff like that, because what I come to terms with was the fact that like everybody shit on faction warfare, and that's because, but majority because no one was telling faction warfare's story,
Mm-hmm.
right? No one was standing up there saying, no, wait, this is actually cool stuff is happening. And so I kind of dedicated myself to be that voice wherever I could be it for a long time. And then, like when Rubicon happened and Caroline Starr and all that stuff, I was one of the hosts of uh, Hydrostatic Podcast, which was actually all three of us were officers from Aderon Robotics originally. Um, so when that happened, we like I knew that this was going to be a really important lore event, and so I contacted everyone I knew that had anything to do with the lore, and we did the lore panel. And we had already kind of gotten known as the lore podcast, even though it was literally only one segment out of three in every single episode. But like being the only podcast that was discussing the lore at all, we are by default the lore podcast. And and the fact that things kind of kicked off with the drifters and everything really locked that in further. So and honestly, as faction warfare kind of decayed further and further, I became less interested in championing for it. So as I mentioned, obviously I went off and did like invasions and stuff like that for a long time for my stream. Invasions was incredibly good for streaming. When I first started streaming, I did the Abyss, which I still recommend for streamers to do, and I still do it quite a bit.
Could you
But
real quick? Could you explain that real quick? What's the Abyss?
the Abyss is a timed semi-random 3-room instance dungeon in which you are given 20 minutes to complete 3 combat scenarios with either a single cruiser, 2 destroyers, or 3 frigates. If you succeed, you get 3 chances of money, loot, which is multiplied depending on what tier of difficulty you're doing. If you fail to get it done in time or get killed, your pod, and everything else is destroyed completely. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. It's divided into technically 7 tiers of difficulty, with tier 0 being more or less the training tier, all the way up to tier 6, which is incredibly difficult to be consistently, even the best ships and the best pilots with the best implants have difficulty not losing a ship in T6. But it's a really good source of ISK even at like lower tiers, and it trains pretty good piloting and teaches you electronic warfare and such, because you'll encounter all different kinds of electronic warfare and it'll challenge your ships in different ways. And there are 5 different kinds of weather which affect your ships in different ways, but you select what weather you're running, so that changes what kind of ships you can do. Like for instance, a good example is electricals. So electricals will reduce your EM resistance, so you need to be pretty careful about that one way or another. But it'll double your capacitor recharge. So ships that are not cap stable in the real world will be cap stable in an electrical abyss. And so you can make builds that are, you can get an MR laser build that wouldn't be cap stable but is viable in electricals or whatever. Or you can
Interesting.
use
And so
like
you've
huge shield boosters.
And so you found this to be like something that, because it's a time trial kind of thing, it's kind of hard. I'm guessing you do the higher level stuff when you're streaming, or what? I just have always I haven't done anything with the Abyss too. I have minor stuff, but it might be something that would be kind of fun to stream. And I'm just kind of interested in your comment that you're saying that that's something that a lot
Yeah.
of people are interested in.
So one of the biggest problems with being an Eve streamer is it's like, how do I get content? Like, period, right? And so the Abyss functions as a, you hit the button, things are exciting for up to 20 minutes, and then you're done. And like as a streamer, that's perfect, right? Like it's the same as like being, because this is something I thought about when I was figuring out streaming Eve, because I would stream for like 8 hours, 10 hours a day, right? And I thought to myself, like, how do other streamers work, right? How is it like to stream League of Legends? What are they doing in these things? And the thing is that there's always this cycle, right, of like the game and then the queuing or the downtime between the game, like the game or Minecraft, right? There's times where you need to focus on something, but then there's these long times where there's kind of a lull, and those are the times where the streamer can like interject themselves and be the entertaining one. So like the game takes over for periods of time and lets you relax, and then you take over when the game isn't doing that well. And so you can create this nice little rhythm depending on what kind of game you're playing. Eve is awful for that. So yeah, so like in that sense, the Abyss is really cool. Like it all, like the chances of there being like a really close cut, or like, am I going to make it in time, or like I'll be able to make it if it's not this next room. As long as it's not the road drone room, I'm good. You jump through, it's the road drone room. Fuck, like that is drama, right? Like that makes good streaming.
That's interesting. I like that. Yeah, that when you're putting it at that nose where you have the possibility of being destroyed, when it's not just, okay, I'm just here and I'm gonna do this mission and I'm definitely gonna win. There's no problem. If you can put that kind of stress level on yourself, like you can feed that into the chat, which always seems to be interesting. Which is, I think, you get with like PvP too, which it just is not as, like you said, it's not, you can't just press a button and all of a sudden you got a 20-man battle on your hands, and you can stress out about all this other, fighting that's going on. But you can do that with Abysses.
Absolutely. Abyssals did make me rage quit when I lost, I think it was an Omen Navy issue. Because I was doing perfect on one of the difficulties, whatever it was, 2 or 3, and then I switched to like the next one and I just got obliterated in 2 seconds, and I was like, what?
Oh boy, I got a story for you about that. But I will say that the other reason why it's really great for streaming is that the Abyss is visually stunning. Like there's so many amazing.
It does look really cool.
Yeah, it is just visually awesome to look at and watch and stuff like that. So,
and you're fighting trigs.
Yeah. And yeah, you encounter all different kinds of things. So different kinds of problems happen. And you also can teach people what's going on, because the thing is that the Abyss is about learning the Abyss. You have to, if you want to get up to those higher tiers, it's not just about buying the expensive ship. In fact, if you do that, that's you're just going to lose an expensive ship. You have to learn what all of the rats are and what do they do and what is your ship's Achilles heel. Like this is one of the things, like you want to run, I recommend people, like tier 1 is to teach you the physical structure of the Abyss. Tier 2, it teaches you what rats are out there. Tier 3 is where you start to deal with the encounters themselves. And so I recommend people running like 50 to 100 tier 3s before they ever move on. And even when I switch to a different ship, I still run 20 times in tier 3, because the key is that you have to experience the thing that threatens you. You may not understand what it is that might kill your ship. And if you encounter it in tier 4 or tier 5, it will kill your ship. You want to encounter it in tier 3 so that way you can understand where your weakness is and you can pilot it correctly when you get there, right? So here's my example. I bought a Deimos, right? This was like pretty late into my streaming career. I was hot shit. We were making tons of money with invasions. So I'm going to show off by buying a Deimos. I bought a Deimos and a brand new pod, 5 billion plus total for the whole thing. I went into the Abyss. I ran 5 different tier 3 runs. It was easy as shit. All right, fine, I can do this. And Fonsui's in the background saying, you should be running more. And I'm like, nah, man, we're good. I jump into a tier 5 or tier 4, and I think it was my second one. I jump into a room with a bunch of Damavix, and it has some neuting Damavix and some tracking disruption Damavix. And I made the wrong decision. I had thought, in my brain, the newts were the thing that was the most dangerous to me. And what I didn't realize was that I was completely ineffective. So within probably 2 hours of losing my ship, or of buying this ship, I lose it on stream. And let me tell you, man.
That sounds exact. I mean, mine was way cheaper, but like, it's like the same situation, right? Because the abysses are hard.
The thing is, this is why I think that the abyss is a great way to learn, is because in the abyss, everything's fine until it's not. and I like, that's fun. Like, it is funny to say, but like, if you think about it, the problem with learning Eve is that it's far too common for you to, like, if you die, you literally have no idea what happened or what you did wrong, especially if you're doing it in like PvP or whatever.
Oh yeah,
your shit's just gone, and you're like,
which
what?
is sometimes the Eve community is great about that, as long as you're not crying. Usually,
yeah. Well, like, and I
it's
try.
So funny if you
like,
punch somebody in the face and they don't cry, you're like, come on in, buddy. But if they cry, you're like, give me a cup. I need to get some tears.
Yeah, exactly. Like if someone just yelling at you, I'm just gonna be like, I love you too, man. Awesome. But if they say like, how did you do that?
Yeah,
I don't understand how you did that. And I'll be like, yeah, this is how I did it. It's exactly like this is how the game works. Or in some cases, I didn't even know how I did something, so I had to like ask somebody else. Wait, how is this possible? And then you learn yourself. I don't know how I killed that guy. I think it was the first time I learned that in faction warfare, if the system you're in is owned by the other side, they don't get tether on upwell structures.
Man, that is a lesson everybody has to learn themselves, isn't it?
And it was great because I just murdered this dude outside the crack house, and he was Cal Mill. That was back when Natoras was in Gal Mill. And I actually wasn't in faction warfare myself, so I had no idea at the time. Why is he not tethered? I don't know. I just shot him and blew him up. I'm gonna keep doing it. and then he asked me how did I not have tether? And I was like, I have no idea. Let me ask Frozen.
And I did know. I think I did at the time.
Yeah, you did. You told me, and I was like, oh, apparently this. And I was like, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. But also, like, as an outsider, or as a person that tries to help people out with the abyss, the other thing I like about it is, like, again, the death is very obvious, right? So time and time and time again, I've had people come to me and go, the abyss is bullshit. I hate it. What happened? It's just total bullshit. Okay, what killed you? Some drifter battleship or something. Did you spiral? What's spiraling? Okay, well then let's talk about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you tell me what room you were in, I can probably tell you what killed you, what you did wrong, and what you need to do better next time.
That's cool. So, and you're doing a lot of these streamings. I've seen a lot of stuff on you doing, like, whenever I jump on. I mean, truthfully, I'm always like, I want to see some faction warfare stuff. I see Ashterothi, he's doing this other stuff. But I find it interesting to a small degree, but I can see why it's a very appealing to the broad community of the EVE Online watchers. So I always found that really interesting that you've moved over. So if I understand this correctly, you've moved your YouTube channel in a focus of lore and running abyssal sites.
Well, so like my whole tagline is putting Eve into context for my fellow Empyreans, right? So, for example, right now the video I'm working on is going to be a breakdown of locations, shareable bookmarks, and access lists, because that's something I got asked twice in a single day. How do I share a bookmark? And the problem is that that's the kind of issue that when you need it, you think that it's going to be a simple process, and it's A, not simple, and B, you have to start from the entire opposite direction. So it's like
I have no idea how to do bookmarks, to be honest, anymore. You get Eve CCP, you fucked me in your bookmark shit. But I know that somebody can share me bookmarks. I know how to access it. I do not know how to share a bookmark to anybody anymore.
The thing is
and that's
that
just my fault. I'm an old stupid man. So, but if you want to teach an old man a new trick, I'd love it.
I'll send you the video when it's ready. But no, the short of it is that, you know, there's a thing called access lists, which is what CCP introduced to the game to improve off of the old, like, you know, how structures used to like operate on standings and stuff. Well, access lists is how you control access to upwell structures. So now you can apply those access lists to bookmarks. So that's the problem is that, like, when somebody says, how do I share a bookmark? I say, well, first you need to make an access list. And now they're having to learn a whole nother concept when they're already trying to learn this concept. And it's rough. So yeah, I'm making a video to kind of break it all down. And you know, hopefully one of the things I try to do is always try to sprinkle in a bunch of fun facts and, you know, advanced things, or, you know, things that, like, even if you think you know what you're doing, you can watch the video and hopefully pull something out.
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. Like, it's like it's what YouTube, I feel like, is where it's at its like core of like helping store the information of the human society in one easily accessible place. And it's like, if I want to know how to fix my car, I can go to YouTube. If I need to know how to fix my Roomba, I can go to YouTube. If I need to know how to play EVE Online, I can go to YouTube. But there is always going to be holes in there, and I think you're filling some really important holes there.
Yeah, I think Frozen wants you to fill his holes.
Yeah, fill them all, man, with as much as you can.
Big oof. Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the thing though. Like, I generally try to focus on the things that I feel are important, but not enough people are talking about, right? So, like, back in the golden day of faction warfare, when people were still publicly maligning it, I was the one that, like, put a lot of attention into, no, this stuff is happening, it's cool. And, you know, now that now that the lore has become a pretty important thing over the last couple of years, all of a sudden, you know, more and more people are looking around for answers, and not a lot of people have those answers. And so, you know, being able to be out there, I'm not the most knowledgeable person in lore, but I'm the guy who's willing to go out there and talk to everybody about it. You know, and
publish content every, you know, new content, because there's a lot of old content out there. But it's older, you know, it's out of date, it's harder to it's not keeping up with the new lore. You know, and I guess I'm to kind of springboard a little bit off of that. One thing I'm kind of interested in is who is doing faction war right now. I kind of did a little search around, and I can't find anybody, which is why I was like, this is the time to do a podcast for faction warfare. I'm a little bit of a bitch where I'm like, I'm gonna be, you know, we're the Gallente Federation frontline report. We're gonna role play this shit like bitches. But really, like, I really want to just put a spotlight on faction warfare, and I'm just trying to find other people that are shining this spotlight on here, and I'm not finding it. I'm just wondering if you know about who right now is really pushing the content media wise for faction warfare. Giving them a shout out too, because I'm gonna go watch their shit. So you get a download out of me if you know anybody.
Yeah, well, I occasionally do. I did I streamed a whole bunch of the Intaki campaign, and split out those videos on my YouTube. But it's true. A lot of people are kind of taking a pause right now. Like, Corvus Onzo is usually a big person for the Caldari.
Okay.
Baleful Dysnomia isn't so much faction warfare, but, you know, she's faction warfare when she needs to be for the Mimitar. And then, you know, like I said, I've done stuff with Gallente, but you guys have, one of the reasons why I've been able to focus on other things is because there are groups like you that it's like, oh, good, somebody is taking care of faction warfare. And honestly, having done this for this long, and I tried to make a podcast called Cross Faction at one point, I think that this is the correct answer, to just be like, we're Gallente and we're going to give the Gallente perspective. Because
Gals Mills, fuck yeah.
Yeah, because, like, any attempt to try to be neutral will just be undermined, and trying to get people to, like, come together, like, having proper representation from all sides has historically failed every single time. And Furthermore,
we're propaganda, man. This is
yeah.
we are the bad news of EVE Online, and I'm fine with being the one. Like literally, like when I see people posting on my YouTube videos, like that's the wrong perspective. I'm like, thank you for posting and being really mad at my show
Yeah.
because that means you care.
Thank you for the
And this is not. I'm not trying to persuade you politically. I'm not trying to like alter your universal view in the universe. Truthfully, we're just a bunch of murderers who like are just pulling up the flag of the Gallente, just like I pull up the flag of the Packers. It doesn't. It's just a fucking team, dude. I'm not gonna be really mad. I love my Caldari counterparts. I love my Amar counterparts and Mimitar counterparts. I want them to do well. I want us to have fun fights. And I'm not here to win as much as I am, here to have some fun. But we are but then there's Samson, and then other people. And you can tell them how much you hate.
I just like killing all of them.
I have a message to all of those guys in your comments. If you
Go
don't
for
think
it.
this is the correct perspective, don't make a comment. That's great. Then make your own goddamn video.
Make your own fucking news channel.
Exactly.
This isn't the Squid News.
And I'm not even being flippant about that. That's why I think
want
this
more.
was a good idea.
No, it's true.
Because-
Exactly. We need competition to not just to create more fun content, but to force us to be better.
Yeah,
right?
we don't need one unified podcast. We need 4 podcasts.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like of the
Yes.
two.
Exactly.
I am 100% for that. I think we should have.
So
a
this
news
is a
agency
call
for
out.
all- That's we're
This is a
calling
call
you
out.
out, motherfuckers. Get on.
All the other fucking factions need to get their own goddamn news.
And
going.
one thing we are doing, I want to mention.
Ours
real
is the
quick,
best news, of course. The
We've-
best, the hugest news.
the bestest of the best.
The bestest of the best news.
We've got an emperor, motherfuckers, that runs.
We got Emperor
this shit.
motherfucking Joe Bane.
Hell yeah. So,
Okay.
but we do have some people that are coming on that are from the Amar Warzone and from the Mimitar from the
Ooh.
Caldari, and we're gonna
I don't
talk
know
to
if I'll be
them.
able to contain myself.
I
didn't sign on for this.
You didn't.
What?
I'm the one who's like pulling all these people, and I love these guys. Like I do. I love EVE. I love everybody who plays EVE, and this is why when I went out and partied with people, I was like, okay, I gotta go play EVE with these guys. But I found I just don't like. I like faction
Chat,
warfare.
it's getting spicy now.
I'm stupid. I'm so stupid, but I love the horrible place that is faction warfare. It's hard. We have the most restrictions. Who can go into Nullsec and can't dock in a station? I can't.
Yeah, that's obnoxious. I lie a bunch of shit locked up. Not as bad as other people, but yeah, it is annoying, and we're gonna fight to get it back.
For fuck's sake, spell check isn't even close. LOL. I just chat. That was beautiful.
But yeah, no, go make your own fucking podcast, man. This is Joe Bane's house.
Oh man.
Did you?
Yeah, but my point is that like we need more content creators, right? Like make a thing. People will listen to it.
Yeah, no, they will. I mean, there's 25 people right now, mostly because Ash is here. I'm sure they're all his people. But that's the thing, right? Like, we just started this show, and it's been a lot of fun so far, and people are interested, and we're interested in people being interested. And I joke a lot about just killing everybody, and I have because it's fun, but it's also fun to. It is a community. EVE, I found that EVE overall is a community. So in the PvP, when someone asks me a question, how did you kill me? I give them the answer, and they're usually very thankful. And sometimes we can recruit them, and other times I ask people like Frozen when we got fucking dropped by Bomber's Bar. When we were just the two of us camping the Nisua Gate in Notorious,
yeah.
and we had no idea how they did it because we did not know at the time that a Blops could bridge any Sinos because it was just an industrial Sino.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there's stealth bombers.
I was so confused. I
Hold on.
literally did not know this, and I knew I should know this. I should know this. It was stupid of me, and I was like, oh, that's an industrial Sino. What, they're gonna bring a jump freighter? And I was like, oh my god, there's so much red. I gotta run.
This is a bit of a deviation, but do you know why?
No, go ahead.
I do remember very specifically when the Sino changes all came in, there was a bunch of weird shit that started happening, because for a long time it was like, if you had a jump freighter, you had to fucking have a recon ship bring you in for like a month or two that they had that. But yeah, go ahead, if you know the full story on this. I know a little bit.
Oh yeah,
but...
I was at Vegas, and Rise explained this actually in a panel that didn't get recorded. So, but basically, this was something that was much more wider known back in 2010 era. I found out through Google, but every Sino and Sino capable ship has what's called a sinusoidal harmonics score, and so the idea is that as long as the Sino that's being lit has a score that's higher than the ship, then the ship can jump to it. And industrials have a have a score of 0. Normal ships have a scale of 5, and Black Ops have a scale of -5, because Black Ops Sinos have to only be for Black Ops, which means Black Ops has to be lower than all of the other numbers. But that also means that now anything that can jump to Black Ops, by definition, also can jump to any other Sino, because it's just a score.
Interesting. Yeah, that's... I'm happy that there's some people in chat who are like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
we need...
Oh no, it's...
If you're
That's what we
listening,
said.
this is the new universe that we're in right now. Is that an industrial is tank the living fuck out of, and you start tackling
We killed it,
it's
by the
gonna-
way.
We did. We lost
We
2
fucking
Noxuses,
killed the
but we
bait.
got that fucking bait.
Hey, we got more points than they did.
We
They
did.
got like
Z-Kill
2
gave
points.
us more points. Prop Z-Kill.
It is-
That's...
It is legitimately one of my favorite like stories that I get told like every once in a while. Like somebody will come to me and be like, you know, that they just took some bait, like there's an industrial or a venture or whatever. and
Knew it was bait.
They went.
I
and tried
didn't
to
know it
kill
was a Black Ops fleet.
Yeah, they're like, there's an industrial Sino and Black Ops came through, and I was like, yep, that's how it's like, surprise, motherfucker. Like that's I love
Because
it.
I
though.
had been baited before when I was solo gate camping, and it was an industrial. No Sino. They just tackled me, and they came in with a fucking kitchen sink fleet, because I mean, I'm solo gate camping. If as soon as they capture me, I'm gonna die. But yeah, when Frozen was just like, he had just finished telling me, man, I miss camping with you, just sitting at this gate talking, and then the bait came through, and I was like, that's bait. And then we were like, wait, Sino, and then we were like,
take a look at local. What does Nissawa look for local? Nothing really, just the normal blues. All right,
no, there's
we're all good
there's
here.
nobody in Nissawa, man. There's nobody in
We're
Nissawa.
fine. Nobody jumping in. We're
Wait,
fine. We're just gonna
Sino?
murder this bitch. What? Yeah, I remember seeing that Sino and I remember specifically thinking, what are you gonna do? Jump in a jump freighter? Fucking idiots.
Yeah, and we weren't on comms either, so that made it worse for us. I think we were just typing to each other. Like I was like, yeah, it's
That's
bait.
how both
It's
of
cool.
us died.
We
That's how both of
yeah.
us died.
Exactly.
I love that moment of like, you think you're fighting an industrial Sino and a Black Ops come through, and that moment of like, what is even happening? Like that's so, because it's Black Ops. Like I don't know. There's something about it that's just chef's kiss.
Yeah, I have to say I was
No,
really
it was
impressed.
beautiful.
I was really impressed.
And
honestly.
they dropped
Good
dropped the Bomber's Bar satisfaction form in the in local a couple of times.
It's also why I now realized why I was shipping around in my DST, you know, in Nullsec, just getting some ships around to where I need them to be, and all of a sudden, like, I had to go AFK. I'm like, of course, I'm like dumb working and trying to like, you know, like just ship some stuff around real quick, and all of a sudden, you know, major incident happens. I got to go deal with it, and I totally forget about it. I go back to my computer like 30 minutes later, and there's like 30 frigates surrounding me, locking me up, but nobody's shooting me, and I'm just like, why? I'm pirate. Like, you should just be able to murder me. What's going on here? And all of a sudden, like, I just warp off. And now it clicks with me, is that they were like, this is bait. This is definitely bait. He's just sitting here waiting for 30 minutes for somebody to like shoot him.
Yeah, never not take bait.
Always take the bait, because it might not be bait.
But that is actually something I really like, because, you know, mechanics, that have a 100% set answer of what you know what it means, I don't think that they're as interesting, right? So if you know that the only things that can come through an industrial sino is industrial ships and other crap like that, then you know that you can go and just take care of it. But now, every once in a while, it's going to be Black Ops.
Yeah, you got to Schroeder's box every time that you see a Sino, or every time you see a industrial ship that's, casually flying through Nullsec. Like I have never been terrified of industrial ships until that day happened, and then now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a step
No,
back
I'd
here.
still take the bait again. In fact, I did it on my stream later.
Oh, did you
Except
guys
it was
have
a
that
pilgrim.
happen?
Well, no, it was a pilgrim, and they just fucking dropped. It was snuff. They dropped dreads on our face. So
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
mean, like when I had a full gate camp fleet, most of us got out. I think only lost a
Was
few.
that Wednesday
including
night that
myself.
when you went out?
Yeah, that was when I was FC. Yeah, that was the last.
Your
That was the end of the
first
stream.
FCing. That was.
They get dropped by
I
snuff.
wish I would have been there to be
Right.
able to see. But the reason why you were FCing is I was gone, so I was like.
Yes, the reason. Yeah, so that was actually, I mean, serendipitous, I guess, because it was a lot of fun. It's great.
Awesome. Real quick, let's kind of like bring this back a little bit. We've kind of gone off on some major tangents, which I'm cool with. I love that. This has been, and we're way over time.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna continue to.
I do believe I warned you about this.
I love it, man. I love it. This is how.
No,
I'm
it's
drinking,
good. It's just
I'm relaxing. I'm having a good time with my buddy, my buddies, and chat's been cool. You guys rock. All cheers to all the Amar, all the Caldari that are like, I'm gonna watch the stupid evil Gallente news. But bringing it back a little bit here, what are some of the changes that you'd like to see in faction warfare? If you had CEO control of CCP, what would you do to fix faction warfare? And maybe you don't think it needs to be fixed, maybe you just want to see something, or maybe you think it's perfect the way that it is. But tell us, what's your take on faction warfare, and what would you like to see it to be?
Not that last one. So like I've been part of a bunch of like faction warfare panels and all that stuff throughout the years. And so first of all, I want to point out that a lot of the things that were problems with faction warfare when it was like rotting, like neglect, the issues that stood, the biggest ones, those have actually all been fixed for the most part. It's just that a lot of those fixes came in as like onesies and twosies, and so like mechanically, faction warfare is in a much better place than it was before. In fact, I think that mechanically faction warfare is in a great place. There's a couple of things like I could tier my wish list, I suppose. Fundamentally, the biggest problem with faction warfare is its rewards, not its tasks. So the rewards favor the winner, and while apathy and underdog story and all that stuff does tend to sometimes change the war zone eventually, it would seem to feel like it's way more sensible, or you would like, it just feels like it should be that if your team is losing, they're willing to give you more to go help them win, right?
I always found that interesting. How does the fucking pendulum swing even happen with the way that the entire time that faction warfare has been out there, the winning side gets all of the benefits, and it's still pendulum swing happens. I don't know how the fuck it happens, but I don't like that idea that the winning side is the like king on fucking the hill that like all of a sudden gets like tons of money to stay on top of the hill. But I don't understand how it swings back and forth though, and I always personally felt like it was just bots that like like somebody figured out the magical formula of like when it's proper to move things back and forth and just controls the fucking universe.
Diana.
I mean, well, I love that you said it the way that you did, because I actually wrote back when INN was the Matani.com. I wrote an article called Apathy Swings the Pendulum, which was so as the Gallente were winning at that point when we took the whole war zone, there's another blogger named Poetic Stanzel who was a Mar militia, and so they had what was known as the nightmare scenario, which was, their prophecy was that basically the Gallente and Mimitar would win, and then United would just stomp out any emergent effort of the Caldari or the the Amar.
At the beginning of
and
faction warfare, I believed that shit. I was like, we're just
Right.
gonna stamp these fuckers. What the fuck are they gonna do?
So we take the war zone and immediately fall from tier 5 and like start losing systems, and the people who worked so hard to take the last systems, like the leadership is kind of burned out, whatever. And so I outlined all of this, and like I said, it was called Apathy Swings the Pendulum. And I was like, see, look, there won't be one winner, because because it is far more interesting to fight to win than to be winning, right? Like you can only survive as a winner for so long.
That's
True.
so interesting. It is true. Like I like the beginning of faction warfare, I would have told you you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And maybe it isn't. I've always kind of like held this deep-seated bullshit excuse of like, this is fucking bots. But I think your explanation that it is apathy that swings the pendulum, that is very apparent that it's happening right now. Like, Caldari will take all of the systems, but you're not going to hold all of the systems. It's too much. You're not going to care as much when you've like, okay, I've taken the whole solar system or the whole galaxy that I can take. Keeping them is much more of a work than it is fun to like retake them.
Also, I mean, like, once you hit a certain amount, so think about it this way. Mission running doesn't provide you anything for warzone control. So the more you win as a warzone control focused person, the less places you have to do what you do to make money, offensive plex. You actually starve yourself out of your own content as you get towards that final stages, which is also kind of interesting. But to the subject of bots, like, obviously there has been some pretty pernicious bots, I think that's the word, recently that has gotten a lot of attention. But the idea of this like background burn of the war zone has always existed, because there's always been, this, it's easy ISK, right? If you can plex in a system that no one's paying attention to, then it's easy ISK. And if you fly in a throwaway ship, then even if it goes wrong, who gives a shit, right? So the idea of people just out there doing, plexing wherever they can for money is its own piece of the puzzle. And in the older days, one of the things that I remember was intensely important was not just, are we winning, but is the public perception that we are winning? Because if we can convince the player base as a whole that we are the winning team, then it would behoove them to come make money on our team, thereby increasing how much we are burning the war zone and flipping it faster. That it was actually a inspiration, motivation, propaganda effort to, and you could see, we would watch faction warfare statistics day in, day out to see like how many plexes Caldari was making in a day versus Gallente was making in a day. And you could see when the public opinion was shifting over from one way to another, regardless of what was actually happening. That's why you see such big announcements about victories and stuff like that, because you want to constantly get it out there. It's recruitment, it's advertising. Even if they don't join your corp, if they make a faction warfare alt to go plex up some stuff because you're now in tier 3, well, guess what? That's one more person running plexes, and it don't matter to you.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. So we are kind of running up on a time that I do kind of want to bring us to an end here. I definitely want to get you back on to the podcast here. No, don't be sorry.
I want to answer.
We're into part 2 and part 3, man.
I do want to answer your question, though.
Go ahead.
Then we can wrap it up. So I do have my suggestion for faction warfare, which is something that I call campaigns. Basically, a cycle of a short period of time, like 1 to 2 weeks, where a specific constellation is focused on, and it is broadcasted to the player base as a whole that this is going to be the focus, and it lasts for its time. When it's done, the reports of all of the activity within that constellation is parsed. Rewards during that time in those constellation is increased. Leaderboards can be built off of it,
Fuck yeah.
whatever, automatically. There could be like a New Eden report automatically from CCP, but more importantly, you can tie this into part of the story or part of the universe where now, this is how old of an example it is. Rodin, the then president of the of the Gallente Federation, says that we are going to retake Intaki, and so there now Intaki becomes the campaign system, and therefore at the end of the campaign, who owns Intaki will matter, and it'll matter permanently, because
Fucking
now
love that.
now the next election, Rodin loses because he's disgraced because you didn't take Intaki. And then the next person takes off, and that makes the next thing. And now as a storyteller, I can say the player base did this, the NPCs did this, the player base did this, the NPCs did this.
Beautiful.
There are games like Ingress does that a lot, where like it's faction territory warfare, but they have specific events with specific focus that move forward the narrative.
No
And
Meaning
if the
says
Gallente
something about this sounds like an Eve Pandora thing. I'm not sure if anybody understands what that means, but I don't.
I'm not sure, but
Okay.
you can also like tie, rewards, titles, medals, all sorts of stuff to these kinds of activities. So like,
Yeah,
if you miss it, you might have to wait till the next time Intaki becomes the system.
that's beautiful, dude.
And then the next step from that, if you really want to go insane, is you take the old the invasion mechanic, right? So they prove that they can basically modify temporarily a system, including its security status. So what if systems within the Gallente Caldari warzone could become contested, either randomly or predetermined or by player activity? A specific system in high sec will temporarily become low sec and become a faction warfare system that we fight over. And then at the end of the time, it goes back to being high sec, but it's now owned by the winner, and that winner gets to keep it until it goes vulnerable again. And so it still counts as points. It still counts towards warzone control. So then there's these like key systems, and to the rest of the player base, they don't give a shit whether or not it says Gallente or Caldari in the top left-hand corner in some faction warfare or in some high sec system. But it gives us an opportunity to mutate the space in a certain way, and maybe even push Gallente into Caldari or Amar into Mimitar in a certain way.
Yeah, I like some of that. I mean, that's definitely, I think that's an interesting route to go. And No Meaning kind of explained a little bit here. Eve Pandora is a beta campaigns website developed by one of the Minmill guys. They give 50 million ISK for the top kills in the Gal Mill over a period of time. But I mean, what you're describing is a little bit more in depth. Has like Eve's story and everything
CCP.
like that. Involves
Right.
CCP's actions involved.
And there was,
if you were to make it a low sec system for that time, I mean, pirates could have a little fun there too. Now, no more Concord if it's low sec.
right, exactly, which is what happened in faction warfare or during invasions.
Right,
So,
during the Perchikaivan craziness.
well, each system as they entered into first liminality.
Oh, right, yes, because it was all over the galaxy. It wasn't just the systems that got switched over. Yeah.
Well,
No, I agree.
I think there's only like one system that went into first liminality that didn't end up going to final liminality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was incredibly difficult to pull it back once it's been.
You would like to see that not to be as difficult, I'm guessing, with the faction warfare, where it's not as. It seemed pretty predetermined. It felt like a little bit.
Right.
But this doesn't need to be.
It was not predetermined, first of all. But my point is that like. The issue is that once one side won the first phase of the conflict and so moved it into phase 2, basically the chances that it entered into phase 3 was like 99%, because you already were pushed into your side. With liminalities, it was even worse, because now it's low sec. That changes the rules for everybody, right? So now only the people that were willing to proceed with that would even be able to push it. So once we were able to take something into first liminality, finishing it off was relatively easy. Meanwhile, when it came to the Edencom side of things, when it's 100% how well you can run the sites and how many of the rats you can kill. And so with everything like at full war, it doesn't move the ticker at all. And so it was basically impossible to pull it back 50, the 50% over, to pull it back into liminality once it was into readout. But there was one time where the Edencom said, nope, screw this, and went into first liminality and ripped it back from us, and it became a fortress. And if you go there, there's now a captured Das Porvitium transmuter that they've done research on. But
No,
my
yeah,
point is
yep.
that they actually could use the mechanics of faction warfare, or of invasions for faction warfare. Even this selection of systems for invasions, Chapter 3, was done by AI. So that entire system ran more or less automatically. And so the same way the campaign system could be.
I do apologize. I'm totally distracted by the like
Chat.
fucking whale sound in the background. Are there whales in space in Eve? Yes, there are whales in space in Eve.
Haven't you watched Doctor Who?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. I do apologize. I got totally distracted there. I do want to give you a little segment. I know you got a lot of stuff. If you could shoot me over, make sure you just, in the chat we got going to Discord, if you could just shoot me over a bunch of your links to any of the cool shit that you do. One, personally, I want to check them all out, make sure that I have all of them, because I think I have most of them. But, if you could just give a little shout out, tell us what you're doing, what your projects, what your passion is, kind of just open this up to like, this is your advertisement. Go out there, tell us what you've been up to, Ash, what you plan on doing, what's going on with Ash these days.
I just linked you a link and it was not what I expected it to be, so that one's wrong. I'll have to go find it.
Porn.
No, so as I say, I have been Ashterothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put Eve into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. I stream most weekdays, usually during my son's school day, so like early morning American time, or whatever that ends up being. And
put it into Eve time. What's Eve time that you normally
I want to say it's like 2000, right around there somewhere. But honestly, I've been doing less content in game because it's easier for me to like make videos that actually explain it and then put it out there than draw undue attention to me in the universe at the moment. But all of my streams get put onto my YouTube channel, and as well as my more polished content, including I just came out with my second video in my Who Are the Triglavians series. So I'm
loving that Triglavian series. That's pretty fucking good, man.
Yeah, the first one focuses on the Zoria messages from Zoria Triglav and is kind of like an overview of everything. And then I've done one now on the Drifter AEA data streams. So as I said, I'm going to be working on other things, including more practical ones, like the locations one, and I want to do like a fittings guide a little bit and some other stuff like that. But ultimately, what I try to do is help figure out what people need like help with and fill that gap, as you said. So I did the CSM election interviews, and
I did a little bit of those too, and I like the ones that you did as well.
Thank you. Yeah. So ultimately, I recommend coming and following my stream and following my YouTube, because my goal is to take what's going on in Eve and help people understand what it means and maybe why it's happening, both in lore, mechanics, changes, whatever. And so that's it. That's what I do.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure in the show notes we'll have links to all that. I know you got a really awesome website for the Imperium. One thing I kind of want to ask is how, if I wanted to get Golden Age stories into the Imperium, if I wanted into the convention of Imperiums, what do I have to do in order to do that? Does it have to be my alliance? Does it have to be, can I do it as a corp? Can I do it as an individual? What does it take to get part of this organization that you've built? Because it seems to be bigger than just join an alliance.
Right. Well, so first of all, I want to clarify. A lot of people hear it wrong. It's not Empyrean or Imperium, as in like the Imperium, the bees that run the thing. It's actually Empyrean with an E at the beginning.
Empyrean.
EMPY. Empyrean is the highest heaven in like Dante's Paradiso. And so the Empyreans are the angels that live with God. And in the book, the Empyrean Age, the Concord representative from the Mimitar gives a speech in which he says that truly the Capsuleers are the Empyreans of the age, the spirits that will lead us to the future, or something along those lines. I don't remember the second line automatically, but yeah, that's where the word Empyrean got coined in our universe, and so the era of Capsuleers is known as the Empyrean Age. I love that word, and that's why I've always said like greetings fellow Empyreans and all that stuff, because I think that Capsuleer is just kind of meh comparatively. But yeah,
and too many syllables.
I like to say that Capsuleer is my job. Empyrean is who I am. But no, the Convocation of Empyreans, most of the time to join the Convocation proper, we ask that you join Malro, which is our high sec department. We could theoretically invite other corporations, but honestly, one of the things is that I'm about supporting as many organizations as possible. So when I had structures, allies, pretty much anybody who helps provide a good space for EVE Online, players in EVE Online, that is willing to agree to not use our own tools against us, has access to all of our resources, right? So, our structures, our web tools, etc. Because I want to help people like have their thing, right? Like, because it's not just about having the Convocation as the most powerful entity. We're mostly just a high sec alliance. It's about that being what they're supposed to be, a Capsuleer advocacy group, more or less. The mission objective of the Convocation of Empyreans is to maximize player engagement with EVE Online. So even if you're not interested in joining the Convocation, you're more than welcome to join our Discord and come and ask questions and hang out and participate in our stuff. Throw an alt in the Convocation, like roll up a new alpha to throw an alt in the Convocation to get to be considered in the Convocation with all your characters. It's fine. We don't have any, like, I'm not about, our job is to try to support as many people as possible. So as long as it doesn't get us into a political problem with other people, then it should be fine.
That's awesome. That's great, dude. I love that. What if I wanted to roll up an alt? Who should I apply to?
So again, if you want to do faction warfare, Aderon Robotics. If you don't, then Malro, Malevolent Row Industries.
Awesome. All right. I'll make sure to get that into the show notes so that you guys know what to join up. And truthfully, I'm just gonna roll an alt into your stuff just because. Nice. I'm a little bit touching here and there. FC for the Golden Age stories and for the Golden Age Empire, which is a really asinine. I feel like an asshole sometimes when with the name, the way that because that's my last name is Golden, so I'm like, I'm a piece of shit in this universe, but I love it. I love being a piece of shit.
We all are. We're monsters.
Oh yeah.
We're just throwing out my name there, man. It's very important. It's like gold. It's like a GOLDEN. So you just word play it and you're a bitch, and that's how it's done. So but awesome. Thank you so much for coming onto the show here.
Yeah, dude.
I'm really excited about a lot of the stuff that you're doing. I'm really excited about faction warfare. I see a future in this universe. I'm super excited. My last name, you say your last name is Golden. Like, yeah, that's how I say it. That is how I say it. But awesome. It's been a great time. I really want to get you back on here. You got so much lore. It's been great talking to you. It's been great working with you on a little bit, that I have been. And I really wish that I would have been involved with X-Men. I still, to this day, I'm like, God damn it, I should have fucking put my alt as the fucking CEO, and I could have just kept on what the fuck is going on there. But just to know.
I mean, like, it's important for leadership to be involved.
Exactly.
Leadership has to have, it sets a tone for everybody else. If the leadership isn't there, then why would anybody else be? So I think that you made the right decision ultimately.
No, that's kind of how I felt too, because I don't think that might not have happened if I was the one just kind of like dragging down the court by being like, I'm in goon space. I don't give a fuck what's going on here. So exactly. So, but thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely get information in the show notes for you. And if you're interested in joining up with Faction Warfare, definitely check out Aderon Robotics. Also, you can check out Golden Age Stories. We're just a bunch of murderers, alts, spies, 100% welcome here. Also, if you have any news that you want to put onto the show here that you think is a newsworthy, or just a statement that comes from the Amar, the Caldari, the Minmatar, the Gallente, that you're like, I'm a new corporation and I'm fighting for the Gallente, you want to put out a statement, hit up Frozen Fallout, FROZEN space Fallout, FALLOUT, in game Frozen Fallout. Or you can hit me up at the Federation Frontline Report at gmail.com. Go ahead and throw out some news out there. We'll get that in there. You can also just come on to chat and just start like pasting information, or I hate this chat, or whatever you want to do. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for coming on. Real quick, I'm going to just quickly go over, we're definitely way over time, so I'm going to spend 2 minutes real quick just talking about the Warzone. Things have been changing. It's been super exciting. Fleet fell.
With a dread.
Fuck yes. And I'm going to, damn it. I wanted that story. That was one thing. But we're a little low on time. We'll get you back on. We'll talk about throwing out dreads and shit. I might just be like, can you like hit me up and record a little session? Anyways, Fleet has fallen to the Gallente. We are back. We've got our Fleet back.
Fleet has risen.
Has risen. Perfect. Risen. That was on October 10th. At the same time, the Minmatar took Ofstold. 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 I don't know. I'm pronouncing it horribly. Then the Minmatar ended up taking Taff. Then Minmatar ended up taking Sazliernor, I don't know. Oh, a word, SALLEU, whatever. I've now drunken too much wine. I can't even fucking read. The Gallente also took Alparnena. Alparena. There we go. Holy fuck, the Minmatar took another 4 systems on the 13th and 14th. I'm not even gonna go into that. You can check out all this stuff. There's .land maps, fucking beautiful faction warfare section here. But last not least, today.
You use .land?
I use .land because but I should be using Aderon has a fucking awesome map for this. I'm gonna make sure it's in the
except for right now 404, so don't worry about it right now.
It'll be in the show notes, and it'll be working when you click it on the show notes. Maybe, hopefully, yes. Minmatar then took another 3 systems. Gallente took another 2 systems. Well, the big one that I'm gonna shout out is that happened today is the fall of Old Man Star. It's a beautiful system. It's got a beautiful Stargate. And check it on out. There's crazy shit that happened there. We were going to go over all the cool kills that were happening in Old Man Star today, but we don't have time. We just don't have time.
You also tell the story of the gate. Man, we're going to have to do that. I should come back just for a Old Man Star episode.
Oh, that would be beautiful. That would be beautiful. Where we could just talk about Old Man Star. I think we should do that on like on Wednesday night, but maybe even the official night. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm getting off track here. Thank you all so much for checking this out. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's been 2 hours. And this has been awesome. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you, Ashterothi. I hope we can get you back
Thank you for coming on, dude.
The website works. It's just the URL changed. I'm sending it over. No problem. Thanks for having me. It was great having me. Sorry, I tried to warn you.
No,
No,
I
you're
love it,
fine.
man. I love it when we have a guest that I just am jiving with, and it's like I can't end the podcast right now. It just we're getting to a point where we are running out of time, unfortunately, in the universe of the real. So we're gonna go ahead and get shut this off here. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for coming on, and have a great night.
And remember, kids, Joe Bain once soloed a fleet of Titans with a Corvette.